All right. We are live, everybody, I think. There we are. We did it. Welcome to the live UFC Vegas 11 post-fight show right here on the MMAfighting.com YouTube page. For those joining us live, welcome. For those of you listening and watching after the fact, thank you for doing so. If you're here, we want to talk to you, so leave your questions, thoughts on the event, anything, matchmaking stuff, next weekend, whatever you want. And we'll talk about them soon. But before I get into everything, I am Mike Heck, being joined by the multiple-time Between the Links champion, Jed Meshew. E. Casey Leiden is here as well. Jed, this was a card that you have had circled for several weeks now. Our good friend Alex K. Lee said it had the potential of being a 9.5 out of 10, and he said it got to a 9.2. What did you make of the card as a whole tonight? Because I thought this was an easy A-A, no doubt about it.
Well, first of all, I'd like to clarify. You call me the former multiple-time Between the Links champion. I think in the same vein as our main event winner tonight, I'd like to just declare myself still the champion. I want my belt back. I'm the people's champion. And so I'd like to just kind of start off with that. As far as this card, though, It was good. You're right. I've been circling this one for weeks. I think, there was some talk coming into this about this potentially being the best fight night event ever. I think that's probably a bridge too far. But on paper, certainly the main card looked good. My only kind of quibble with this is 14 fights is insane. And even though it got done at a reasonable hour, that's still just a lot of combat. They could have pared that down a bit. But overall, it didn't live up to the hype from an in-cage perspective. At least a couple of the big bouts didn't. But I'd still give it a really solid grade. A firm B+.
Casey, are you as positive as I was, A-A? Or you? I mean, Jed's still pretty positive here at the B+. Where did you sort of rate the festivities overall here?
This is. I'm pretty much just on board with that. It's just too much of a good thing in a sense. Like it's like I put it like when I go to back in the day when we could be around people. When I go to a music festival, and I would see 3 really good metal bands, but then there was like 16 more after that. They're all awesome. It just gets too much noise. So that's what just happens. It's just a little too much. But luckily for me, my internet died halfway through the night, so I missed about 3 fights. So it felt like a regular fight night for me. So,
well, let's talk about the main event. Colby Covington gets it done, dominates Tyron Woodley from start to finish. He wasn't in any danger whatsoever from the opening second of the fight. It's pretty much what people expected would happen. We did think Tyron might get up for this one with things being so personal and having lost the last 10 rounds and the last 2 fights, but it didn't happen here. Colby gets the finish in the 5th round. Looks like Woodley said on his Instagram Live moments ago that a rib popped out. So obviously very painful stuff. But Jed, what did you make of Colby's performance, especially in his first fight, not affiliated with ATT in quite some time?
I mean, it's hard for me to say that Colby looked good or bad. I think Colby looked like Colby, which I guess is a good thing in general because he's one of the probably 3 best welterweights on the planet. So, coming off of having his jaw broken, I don't think he looked particularly gun-shy or anything like that. I think he looked exactly like he's always looked, and that was just a really bad matchup for Tyron Woodley. Probably a really bad matchup for Tyron Woodley at any point in time, but certainly at this iteration of Woodley's career where he's now lost 15 rounds in a row if you're keeping score here. So, yeah, certainly a good win for Covington. He gets that feather in his cap. He gets to say, yeah, I could have done this forever ago and been the undisputed champion, yada, yada, yada. But it's hard for me to know how much of this is a credit to Colby Covington and how much of this is Tyron Woodley is just done. He doesn't have anything left to give at this point.
Casey, what do we do here? Because this has just been a wild year. We thought plans were in place, to do Masvidal versus Diaz 2. May not be the case anymore, according to Dana White at the press conference. Dana mentioned maybe Colby's next opponent will be Jorge Masvidal if Masvidal wants to fight. A lot of people on the internet are throwing out Colby versus Leon Edwards, I don't think that's the direction they go whatsoever. I think there's 0% chance of that happening. But, obviously we get the title fight between Usman and Burns on December 12th. Colby said he would slide in if something happens to either of those two gentlemen. What would you do with Colby next?
I think you just actually hold him. You don't book him, and because the reality is, Gilbert Burns trains in Florida. A lot of the fighters are catching COVID in Florida. I mean, it's just smart backup just to keep Colby there, ready to fill in, I think. And unless Colby really wants to fight and wants a paycheck, I see no real reason to book him from a promotional standpoint.
I think this is the worst case scenario for Leon Edwards.
Oh,
Leon Edwards needed.
He's done.
Yeah, he needed Tyron to win so bad.
Who's Leon Edwards?
There are no good scenarios for Leon Edwards. Like, I'm sorry, that's just the world we live in. Sorry, Leon needs to get 10 more wins or become interesting overnight. Those are his two choices.
I mean, just go back and look at Tony Ferguson's run. He guy still hasn't had an undisputed lightweight title shot ever in his entire career. Even when he was running off all those wins, he's never actually stepped into the octagon for an undisputed 155-pound title shot. He's had interim title fights, but he's never actually gotten a full official crack at the real title. So you feel for Leon, but it's just the division as it stands right now. Things need to fall into place. Dominoes need to fall in the exact direction they need to fall in, and they just haven't happened for Leon. So unfortunately, I think Wonder Boy is the only fight that makes any sense for him right now. Although it was mentioned, we're going to get right into Chimaev right now because co-main event.
Who's going to bring up Chimaev first?
Listen.
Well, Leon don't want those problems, man. That's not a winning scenario for Leon either.
Right.
That's a losing in a hard way scenario for Leon.
I mean, normally we talk about the co-main event here, but it ends in a majority draw. I mean, it was a fun fight. It looks like those two guys might run it back. But honestly, out of the 14 fights, that was probably the worst fight on the entire card. It's probably the worst fight.
Was it really a fun fight? Because, I mean, when Casey was talking earlier, like, yeah, there's too much a good thing. Like, realistically, that's totally right. And the fact that none of us are coming out thinking this was an amazing card, it always boils down to the main and co-main event. If the main and co-main event had been bangers, we would leave this fight night being like, wow, that is the event of the year. Because the undercard was stacked with awesome stuff. And then you've got Khamzat's 17-second obliteration of a guy. People were giving him maybe has a chance to make something happen here. But then the main event was awful, and the co-main event kind of laid an egg too. Like it was just whatever, which kind of left us with this lower than felt expectations.
So we skipped the co-main event altogether. We're just getting it's the Khamzat. It's the Khamzat show.
I compared this event to an event a few weeks ago. I don't remember the name of it, but which event it was. But this event was basically pancakes, in a sense. When you first get pancakes, they're freaking awesome. By that last few bites, you're sick of this shit. So thanks,
Mitch Hedberg.
Yeah, that's a Mitch Hedberg reference, but that's essentially what it feels like when these fight cards are just so long. It's just like we have too many pancakes.
Casey, are you trying to compare this to Fight Circus? Because if so, we're gonna have a fight. Because yes, Fight Circus did in fact peak at the 2-on-1 fight, but the rest of it was still delightful. I could have lived my whole life without seeing Covington-Woodley. I'm good.
All right, so let's talk about the star of the night. Let's talk about Khamzat Chimaev. I think most people expected Khamzat to win. I think most people thought he would get tested a little bit, but good God almighty, one punch, 17 seconds over a seasoned guy like Gerald Meerschaert. I got to admit, I didn't see that coming. I thought Meerschaert would test him. I thought Chimaev would win the fight, but I thought Chimaev would have to work a little bit more. Man didn't have to work at all. Now we're talking about booking him on Fight Island maybe in the next 7 to 14 days. Jed, wax poetic on Mr. Chimaev after that performance tonight.
Dude, there's not a person alive who saw that coming. I don't even think Khamzat saw that as a one-hitter quitter. The first punch he threw one kick and then he threw a punch and he felled him like a tree. I mean, there's nothing in any of his history to have shown us that, yeah, we're going to be done with this. I thought Meerschaert was going to get worked over. I've been saying this for weeks. I told you guys this at some point, like, sure, it is technically true that Gerald Meerschaert is the toughest fight of Khamzat's career, but Meerschaert's just going to try and play jiu-jitsu, and he's just going to get punched in the face a lot until he stops fighting back. I was totally wrong. He got punched in the face one time. It wasn't a lot. It was just one time. And this dude's a natural welterweight. He came up and a durable, tough guy, Gerald Meerschaert, and just burnt him out. Like, unbelievable performance. And, you know, I guess the last thing I'll say before kicking it back to y'all is, are we sure we want Demian Maia's retirement fight to be against this dude? Because I don't think we want that to happen anymore.
All right, so that's a perfect segue to you, Casey, because you didn't even. I mean, you were like, I guess, better with the Demian Maia fight than the Meerschaert fight, but you wanted to throw this man to the wolves. Like, you wanted him top 5 guys, top 3 in these divisions. These are the fights you wanted. Did you feel vindicated watching tonight?
I was shocked. I in our staff picks, I picked Chimaev. I thought it would be I actually thought it'd be like an ugly kind of groundy poundy 15-minute decision, but oh my god, like I haven't got that same feeling since when Conor knocked out Aldo, in the sense that the fight was over before it started. I didn't even get a chance to get excited. It was just so, it was just wild. It was wild, and sorry, what was the question, Mike? I'm just so kind of in love with that violence that man gave me for a moment. I'm off. I'm dreaming. I'm floating right now. I'm not even just. Oh, so, Maia.
Well, no. We're talking like after the second fight, after the second win for Chimaev, you were on like. Oh. I was kind of in the middle of you and AK. Like, AK was like, oh no, give him Miguel Baeza. Let's give him another prospect. And I was like, no, give him like a Cerrone or a Pettis.
What a putz, AK.
AK sucks.
And you're like, F it. Let's give him to like to Wonder Boy or top 3, top 2. Give him a title shot. Like, do you feel vindicated now?
Oh, absolutely.
Compared to AK.
Yeah. AK really earning the other Alex title.
Oh man, like Chimaev, if they book him against Leon Edwards, if they book him against anyone, honestly, in the top 7, I think, really. And where is Maia probably ranked? He's about there, right? Is he borderline top 10?
Maia has to be a top 10
yeah,
guy, so
yeah,
I imagine he's 8 or 9.
Yeah, I actually still love the Maia fight because
Maia, it's 7.
I hate it.
Oh,
I hate it so much.
Yeah, I love the Maia fight because I'm really big into, you don't leave this sport with a win. He's like, you leave the sport humiliated. That's how you leave the sport. So I'm all about it still, the Maia fight.
I don't know. I feel like Demian Maia already got where's his jiu-jitsu now playboyed once. He doesn't need that to happen again.
Yeah, you're right. He did get Gilbert Burns. Yeah. So
we don't need that to happen again. Let Demian Maia have a good ride off into the sunset.
Demian Maia's 2020 hasn't been worse enough. It sucks for everyone else. It needs to suck for Demian Maia too. So
he already got knocked out by Gilbert Burns. What else do you want? In his home country, he got knocked out by Gilbert Burns.
All right.
In the first round, that was pretty bad.
All right. Maia, you're done. You can fight. I don't know, Cerrone or something.
It was interesting hearing Dana White answer the questions, because he was like, never in my career in covering combat sports and being part of the combat sports game have I seen a guy like this, where I'm just this excited about anybody, like out of anybody, like Conor, anybody. It's Chimaev is a unicorn, essentially, is basically what he said. All these names to throw. We want to turn him around next week. We'll have him fight every week. And as soon as Leon Edwards' name came up, well, like I like the idea, but now he needs a full training camp for a fight like that. Like, and I get it. So to me, if you're gonna book this guy, let's book him against somebody who actually like wants to fight him. So, give him Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland wants it. Give it to him. Give it to him.
Kevin Holland.
Why not? Yeah, he said right out. He said, if something happens to Demian Maia, I'll fight the rat.
Yeah, but Kevin Holland's like a middleweight, and I know that Khamzat just starched Gerald Meerschaert, but he's a welterweight, and let's have him fight real people. Like, not do this jump up. Like, let's just have him fight other welterweights, because he's probably gonna beat the hell out of them too. So
Holland wants to go to 70 still. He's still got that on his mind. If he can get to 70, would you want to see it? No.
I don't think he can get to 70. Kevin Holland is a huge man. Like I guess he can because fighters do a lot of insane things. But I think Kevin Holland just had a tough fight with a tough opponent tonight, and I think it would. I don't want to see them run that back, but that would make more sense than putting a guy who edged out a win in a gritty kind of fight against your now darling son. I don't believe Dana when he says that he's never been more excited about somebody. Like, come on, Francis Ngannou wasn't like the most exciting thing you've ever seen step into a cage when he first jumped in.
I'm pretty sure he said the same thing about Izzy just a few months ago. You know, when Izzy started, when Adesanya started coming up the ladder. I mean,
of course he did.
We've heard this before, so
Dana has the memory of a goldfish, so of course he did. Like, it's fine, but like, yeah, I don't know who to give Khamzat to or who to more appropriately feed to Khamzat, but Kevin Holland just doesn't feel like that's enough bang for your buck coming off this.
Listen, I think if we're gonna do 85, there's only one guy you can set him up with because it's the guy that like all of these 85ers on the come up had to beat to get there, Brad Tavares. I mean, that's not
bad actually. If you're going to do 85,
at 70, sheesh. What do you do there?
Yeah, why do you hate Brad Tavares?
Vicente Luque is who you do. Actually, that's the fight. That's the fight. That's the one I want.
All right, I'm in.
Top 10 guy, just bangers.
What are the people on? What are the people on? I'm sure we're gonna get. I'm sure there's. I mean, a million ideas. So you know what? Forget. We're gonna talk about the rest of the card.
Is it Nick Diaz?
We could do Nick Diaz. Oh, jeez Louise. Before we get to the people, we're gonna get to people momentarily. So performance bonuses, obviously Chimaev. I would have given him all 4 bonuses if we're being honest. Mackenzie Dern, great win for her. How Randa just chased her down like that, I just don't get it. I don't believe it. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. Damon Jackson and then Randy Costa. Randy Costa's knockout was unbelievable.
Oh, yeah, Randy Costa's knockout was unbelievable. Could you really not believe it, or is that just one of those hyperbolic things? Because I've been thinking about this a lot, and MMA feels to me like one of the only sports where just like you can be world-class by having what many would assume would be a baseline level of competence. Like, how many fights are won by cardio and by just like not having terrible fight IQ? Which you would sort of assume every fighter should have those two things as they're very controllable factors. But, like, some people just don't. They just – like, how many boxing matches have you ever watched where the person who won, like, they won strictly because they just were better conditioned than the other athlete? Not a lot. It's just not the same thing. And in fighting, cardio is like one of the best weapons you can have, and it's almost entirely a factor of you just caring. And fight IQ is the same. Like, Brandon Marcos could have easily just not done that and had a way better chance at fighting. Tyron Woodley, if you could just train him to not take backward steps, he'd be a vastly better fighter, even in his current iteration. But you can't, like, you just can't do it. He refused to not put his ass on the cage, and so he got beat down as a result of it. Like, it's shocking to me that at the highest levels of MMA, this is still like a very common occurrence.
Mackenzie Dern threw a kick, and she literally flew in the air and fell to the mat. And then Randa's like, "Ooh, I got her now." Like,
you fell into my trap.
I can't believe that. It was just like the Hannah Cipher fight. Like, but this is probably worse than the Hannah Cipher fight. Like, Hannah was like was doing pretty well on the beat. Until she tied up with her. I'm like, what are you doing? I accidentally picked Hannah Cyphers in our picks, in our team picks. I didn't even mean to. It would have been an undefeated night if I put the pick in correctly. And I was like, oh my God, if I could steal one this way, it would have been amazing. But wow, interesting. But Randy Costa, I've seen that exact knockout from him at least one other time before. It's a weapon. Like, if you're preparing to fight Randy Costa, you have to be prepared for that combination. The kick and then the punch and then the kick. He does that all the time. He's finished so many fights that way. It was great to see it on a nice stage against a tough guy. That was a great fight, and we knew that was going to happen in some way.
Can I say, cause like, we're probably not going to mention it because there's so many dang fights, but I thought Derek Minor got screwed at 50K. The gentleman that guillotined TJ Laramie. He was a big underdog, and he won in under a minute. And I thought that was more worthy of the 50K over Miss Stern.
You didn't think Damon Martin deserved his 50K bonus? Or is that what you're telling me, Casey? Because I'll say David Martin going from the journalist booth to picking up a W in the octagon,
To
pretty big
featherweight.
step up.
Featherweight, he made featherweight. That was impressive.
After losing the first 2 rounds pretty badly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that's just Mirsad Bektic right there. That's the story of Mirsad Bektic's entire career.
Another stunt, unbelievable. I will say this, just a quick little teaser. I've kind of middlemanned a Damon Martin, Damon Jackson interview for MMA Fighting coming sometime next week. So stay tuned for that. All right, let's go to the peeps. I'm sure there's a million things I want to talk about.
What we got?
Khamzat versus blank. I'm sure there's 18,000 comments about that.
Well, I'm looking for a question. Honestly, the fight I want to see with Khamzat that I'm just not going to get is Khamzat versus Colby.
Well, you might get it eventually.
I think eventually, but that
could be soon.
See, I don't want to see that fight because we actually Khamzat might not actually be good. He might be good but not amazing, and that would just be the most disheartening thing.
I've had enough of disheartenment this year. I can take a little more.
Well, that's fair. That's fair.
All right.
I mean, are we gonna give him a top 15 guy next? I mean, especially if Dan's gonna turn around on Fight Island next.
Vicente Luque is a top 10 guy, and that's 100% the fight I want.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
That's a great fight. How can Damian Maia defeat Khamzat Chimaev?
Is he allowed to bring a bat into the cage? With a stick while he sleeps? I don't know what else he's gonna do, man.
He's gonna have some fight circuit, so you maybe need 4 or 5 Mayas in there.
Yeah, all right. So on a slightly serious note for the people who are watching this, because I imagine many of them are thinking, well, he just knocked out Gerald Meerschaert. Why does that make him suddenly the death knell for Demian Maia? Because he just knocked out a dude. That's why. If you are a competent kickboxer, you can probably beat Demian Maia if you can just keep it on the feet, and we're all assuming he can. But now he can also just obliterate Demian Maia, Nate Marquardt style on the feet, and that's just not going to be a good matchup for him. So, yeah, I hope they don't do that fight anymore.
I hated the matchup when they first booked it because just because of MMA and reactions to things. If Damian Maia goes out and submits Khamzat Chimaev in the first round, let's just say he gets to the ground, he slaps on a triangle or something and gets a tap. Maia goes off into the sunset, but it's see, I told you Chimaev was overrated. I knew it the whole time. But if Chimaev just absolutely murks Damian Maia, it's just a bad way to go out. I hate the matchup. Damian Maia should be fighting Robbie Lawler. That's a fight. He should be fighting someone on that level. Another guy kind of in the same boat.
Can we do Damian Maia, Tyron Woodley too? Maia could win that fight now. Legitimately could win that fight now.
I don't hate it.
I mean, I would hate it. I don't want to watch it, but that's
what else are we gonna do?
Who
else can Tyron fight right now if he's gonna stick around? I mean,
I have to assume he quits, right? He's lost 15 rounds in a row. That's bad. I know that BJ's lost a lot of fights in a row, or theoretically he has, but BJ retired in 2011, so he hasn't actually lost 15 fights in a row. But that's got to be among the worst runs in UFC history. 15 straight rounds.
The crazy part though, but this is what I think what just confuses me about Woodley is taking out the rib injury, him actually getting finished. None of those rounds, he wasn't turtled up or just getting oh my god, the ref's gonna stop the fight. It was just he was just kind of I feel he lost 15 rounds the exact same way.
He did.
Isn't that weird? You know what I mean? It's not
yeah.
It was just so it's a very BJ lost in lots of unique ways. Heel hook, just getting beat up. Yair, just. There's a million ways BJ lost. He lost to a random dude in a parking lot in a bar. It was
BJ also had very brief moments where you could convince yourself that something good was happening. Yeah. Tyron had none of those. He has lost 15 rounds in every second of those rounds. It is pretty shocking.
But 15 rounds where he looks like he still didn't even try his hardest. I don't know. They call it. That's the weirdest part. Like BJ, look like BJ wanted to fight. He wanted to fight, but Tyron just like I don't. It's. But I guess before I want to just throw Woodley away, nope. I would like to see Woodley against I don't know. I know this never happens in the UFC, but just Woodley against a bottom tier UFC welterweight. I can't think of one right now because there's so many, but who
there's not many of them.
I mean,
even some of like the up and comers. Like I don't want to see, like maybe. All right, here's a perfect fight, okay? Because you can't throw him in there with a huge name right now. You got to throw him up in there with an up and coming guy. Sean Brady, like do a Sean Brady fight. Sean Brady versus Tyron Woodley. Sean Brady probably wins that fight at this point. Like I'm just being honest.
God.
But
how are we at this point in his career where we just said confidently that Sean Brady? No, because I agree with you.
Yeah,
how are we at the point where Tyron Woodley, we're all confident he loses to Sean Brady? Come on.
That is a very sad statement you just said, Mike, because I don't know who that is.
What?
I have no idea. Dude, we see what I'm sure he reminded me. He showed his face to me, but just saying his name, I can't honestly remember who Sean Brady is right now.
All right, Diego Sanchez. Do you think beats or doesn't beat Tyron Woodley at this point?
Ooh.
I just thought of it because he's fighting Jake Matthews next weekend, and Diego probably should have retired like 5 years ago, but he's still showing more gumption in the cage than Woodley is.
It's true. He just beat Michel Pereira.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah,
I know that's
Michel
the thing.
Pereira versus Tyron Woodley. Yes, there you go.
Oh my God,
that's not awful, honestly.
Yes,
What about Pereira versus Chimaev?
Oh,
that's chaotic. I love it.
That would be fun for all of 10 seconds.
Let's fight circus.
Then Pereira gets tackled, and that's the end of that game. But yeah, like Woodley is just so fascinating because I honestly don't think I've ever seen a fighter fall off a cliff like this. And part of me wants to give him the benefit of the doubt and say, well, yeah, but at the same time, he lost to Kamaru Usman, who's probably the best welterweight from like a skills perspective in the history of the sport. Gilbert Burns, who is currently the fighter of the year and will be challenging for a title later this year, and Colby Covington, who, say what you want about him, he's a really, really good fighter and one of the 3 or 4 best welterweights in the sport. So there is definitely some temptation for me to write some of this off as, well, Woodley's fallen off, but he's also facing the elite of the elite, and that's just a bad combo. But at the same time, we've seen so little of anything that even resembles good in his last 15 rounds that it's hard to just say, yeah, this is a matter of competition and not, yeah, he's just washed, because it really feels like that.
I mean, if you want to do something with him, you gotta put him in there with the striker. You just have to.
Look how Woodley did against Darren Till. I mean, that was like Woodley's maybe best performance of his career.
Yeah.
And then
you can't put him with another cardio machine wrestler. You just can't do it. You can't. Give him fun fights.
I don't even know who you can put him in with.
Even Woodley and Luque would be not as fun as Chimaev, but that would be interesting.
Hey, and Woodley did not fall off as much as Henan Barao.
That's a good one.
Don't forget Henan. Don't forget Henan.
That's a really good one. But I'm not willing to say that he hasn't yet, because he's on a really similar trajectory. But yes, Henan is a good one, Case. It's a good point.
Cowboy is over. Looks like Woodley. You know what? I don't
Cowboy
think
Woodley.
Yeah, I don't hate that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
they're both washed. Do it.
Or do Nico Price Woodley.
Nico Price needs to fight Michel Pereira. You just need to ram the chaotic, crazy people into each other as many times as possible.
I don't have the same trepidation about Cowboy as I do about Woodley right now, because Cowboy's not going to be fighting top 5 guys. He's just not going to be. But I still think he beat Anthony Pettis, And he didn't look bad. He didn't look terrible tonight. He got poked in the eye like 17 times, and that was pretty bad. But he overcame some adversity early on, kind of got it together, and we saw flashes of Cowboy. But it wasn't as fun of a fight as we thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
Khamzat versus Neil Magny. Did I just see that?
Yeah, I had that up. Anybody really.
Anybody. Yeah. I feel like that would be like kind of stylistically the most boring one of the bunch.
Hey, let's see if someone can make him boring. Let's see if someone can slow it down.
I mean, I think you just need to have Neil Magny and Leon Edwards fight in a battle of who gives a. Am I allowed to curse on this show? Who gives a hoot? So just do that one, and Khamzat just. Have Khamzat fight fun people. Khamzat's fun. We need to not make him fight not fun people. Like, let's just ride this train till the wheels fall off.
I agree. Does Masvidal versus Colby go any different than Masvidal versus Usman?
I mean, probably a little bit different, but not massively different. I mean, that style is really effective, and it's really going to be really good against Masvidal. I am willing to give Masvidal a little bit of the benefit of the doubt that a full training camp could help him be a little more effective, to staving some stuff off and, not having to rely on being defensively sound as the fight wages on. But I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, he's not going to spark out Colby, so he's just going to get outworked over the course of 25 minutes.
I think that's the fight to make. I think you have to make that fight. But how do you make it? Like, how do you make it? Do you put the BMF title on the line? Because that has to be especially with where Masvidal is at in his career and like what fights he's going to take and where he feels his value lies. Masvidal's not a fight night main event kind of a guy. He's a headline, a pay-per-view in Madison Square Garden kind of guy.
You can do a pay-per-view with that fight.
Like a main event? No.
Yeah, I think you can main event it. I mean, you're main eventing a pay-per-view of Masvidal at that point, and I think Masvidal can do that. And I mean, there's plenty of backstory with Covington. There's the whole, former best friends turned bitter rivals. There's the political angle that you can delve into especially if Donald Trump wins re-election in November. You've got two really, really big pro-Trump guys that you can kind of build some sort of a marketing campaign around as well. I think there's a lot you can do if you give that a promotional build. I think that could main event a pay-per-view. I mean, it's not going to do 1 million buys, but almost nothing the UFC does at this point is going to do 1 million buys. So, yeah, sure, why not? And, I mean, there are no other good fights for Masvidal. He's not getting Usman. Nate Diaz is the only other fight, or Conor McGregor. I don't think Conor's fighting him. And everyone is pretty not pumped about Nate Diaz rematch. I mean, I guess it's fine, whatever, but you guys aren't stoked on it, right? Because everyone I've talked to seems to think it's really boring and not interesting, because it is.
I mean, I get it. I mean, it's good business, but
yeah, it's fine business, but like that fight we know who wins that fight. We saw it last time, and nothing will change.
Yeah, so, I'd rather see Khamzat fight either of those two guys than them fight each other again.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you get Khamzat like another big win, maybe Masvidal wants to fight him. But no, I think Masvidal or Covington makes the most sense. You can also pitch it to Masvidal by, hey, Covington, if you beat Covington, you're basically right back in line for a welterweight title shot. And I think you can headline a pay-per-view with that fight, no problem.
All right.
Is Khamzat the biggest new UFC star since, I don't know, maybe Izzy? Or is he bigger than Izzy already?
Well, I mean not
already. Obviously
he's definitely not bigger than Izzy.
Yeah, sorry, but potentially, I guess.
So that's probably true, but also we have to remember Izzy debuted at 2018? Izzy's still really new to the UFC. He just had a gangbusters first 18 months in the promotion. So, I mean, probably. I'm trying to think of anybody else who came in over that time period that would make any. Sean O'Malley? I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Like, people seem to like Sean O'Malley. I don't get it, but people do.
But it took a while for Sean to get cooking. You know what I mean?
Well, he also had whatever, like 3 years out of the cage because of nonsense or whatever. I would say probably yes. I don't actually know how big of a star he is, though. Like, you guys honestly can probably speak to that a little more. But I know that there's interest in him, but is it just like, ooh, here's another crazy Russian guy interest, or is it like something tangible?
I'm not sure, honestly, because I for the longest time I was kind of naive in a sense. Obviously, I knew how good Khabib was. I honestly didn't realize how big a star he was.
Oh.
Because it's just like, oh, he doesn't talk trash. I mean, in my mind, it's like, unless you talk trash, unless you get big knockouts, you can't be a star in this sport. He kind of broke that mold in a sense. He does talk trash in his own way, but
in his awesome way.
His awesome way.
Khabib is low key like one of the 3 best trash talkers in the sport, because everything he says just has that air of like truth to it. Not like, oh, I'm just talking trash, but when I say something, it's actually factually correct. I'm going to smash you. Sorry.
I kind of just go by the questions we get asked on shows like this and comments on different things. And man, since Fight Island, it's been Khamzat like every single show. It's all about Khamzat. Khamzat should fight this guy. What about this guy versus Khamzat? Like, everybody, it's Chimaev fever. Like, he's very close to fighter of the year. If he wins one more, he might be the fighter of the year.
When we talked about this sort of like a month ago or whatever, Khamzat, it was when AK made a really bad choice and picked Kamaru Usman as his fighter of the year. Like, Gilbert Burns, I think, still is the front runner.
Right now,
but
yes.
A lot of it will depend on what happens in his title fight, should that come to pass. If he wins, 100%. That's just locked up. But yeah, I mean, Khamzat gets 4 wins. He is certainly the king of Fight Island if he gets another one at Fight Island in the next couple of weeks. So he's on the short list for sure. Like, he's gonna make the top 5.
Dude, Dana has to try to get him on. They can't get him on next week's card, but if they get him on the next 4 fight nights after that, and all, like, if he fights 4,
they do back-to-backs,
back every week at 85, just throw it. Yeah. Please.
That is actually what they need to do with him. We don't need a good matchup against Vicente Luque. Just give him middling to low tier welterweight / middleweights to smash week after week after week. Then he will in fact be like one of the 5 biggest stars in the sport.
Man. While we wait for more questions, just kind of running through the rest. Like Tyson Nam, another knockout over Jerome Rivera. Andre Ewell and Erwin Rivera was a fun fight. Randy Costa, we talked about. Derek Minner, 52 seconds. Outstanding performance over TJ Laramie. Big underdog, gets it done. Jessica Rose Clark looked great tonight.
Are we not going to talk about the Jessica Rose Clark shenanigans?
Yeah, I was waiting for a question, but
we actually haven't done anything about it. Let's talk about it. You know what? Because my internet went down when that happened. I just looked on Twitter, and people were just going, oh, Chris Taglioni again. That's all I saw.
So you don't know what happened?
I didn't actually see the video, so so explain what happened.
Okay, so
it was awful, dude.
So Jessica Rose Clark is fighting Sarah Alpar, and Alpar spent most of the fight trying to take it down, and then in the 3rd round, Alpar, like, it looks like she might have been sitting on the mat, like she sat on the mat, and Rose Clark landed like this ferocious knee to the face of Sarah Alpar. So, I mean, it busted her wide open, there's blood all over the mat. So Chris Taglioni stops the fight. And, like, Jessica Rose Clark's like, yay, I just won. It turns out Taglioni stopped it because he thought it might have been an illegal strike. Upon replay, it was not an illegal strike. She was still sort of on her feet. And then Chris Taglioni, instead of stopping the fight like he's supposed to, because if you stop and look,
make stuff up.
If you stop to look at replay, you're supposed to stop the fight. Like, if it's illegal, then it's a DQ, and if it's not, then it should be a TKO victory, especially with how it played out. But Sarah Alpar is just like a bloody mess. She's out of it. Chris Taglioni's like, I didn't stop the fight. Like, I didn't say it was over. It's not over.
I love that so much.
He restarts the fight. And Jessica Rose Clark just batters Sarah Alpar. Just batters her.
He restarts the fight after he goes to Jessica Alpha and is like, hey, can you fight? If not, you're going to lose. It's like,
that's a good option.
I'm going to restart the fight, or it's going to be a TKO loss for you. So she obviously said yes, and then she just got obliterated for another like 2 minutes. I understood Tyone's whole being in that moment of like, crap. I screwed up, but instead of just going hand up, I screwed the pooch on this one. Then he's just trying desperately to claw it back. I didn't stop the fight. All right, everyone out, let's go. Like, dude, it was unbelievable. And the fact that Alpar's corner sent her back out there is categorically insane. Like, she was done. And then they just let her get beat down. And so for the rest of the fight, Paul Felder and Dominic Cruz are just like, this is awful. What the hell is going on?
So wait, so what was the difference between this and, at least the initial situation between this and the Ed Herman fight? He thought it was an illegal strike, correct?
Correct. He thought it was an illegal strike, but then he went and looked at the replay and was like, oh, it wasn't an illegal strike. Restart the fight. So which is not legal to do.
Yeah, even John Anik was like, listen, if you stop the fight to look at replay, like, you can't restart it. Like, you can't restart the fight. It's either a TKO or a DQ or whatever. Or like, you're not supposed to restart it in a situation like that. Chris Tyone's like, you know what? Precedent Central. We're going to restart it. And then the Nevada State Athletic Commission.
Now, baby.
And then
you can do that from now on.
And then the commission releases a statement saying that, like, everything he did was correct. Like, what? What are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about?
I thought that was the whole issue of Ed Herman. Like, we can't look at the replay because once we look at the replay, the fight has to end.
That's exactly it. That was exactly it.
Wait, that was the same commission, the same cage, the same ref? Oh, God, this sport.
It doesn't have to end because nothing has to happen if you just say no and just keep going on with life. Like, it's
I have to find this exact statement so I can read it.
MMA
is ridiculous.
Best. This is like, it's such a. You talked about fight circus. That was a legitimate like fight circus scene in the most ridiculous ways. Like, also, why do we have this rule? It's the dumbest rule in history, and all it does is lead to stupid situations. Same with back of the head strikes, which I don't even the Ryan Spann Johnny Walker fight about the back of the head strikes. Like, why do he care? What, like, this is just semantics now. Violence was done. Somebody lost. Let's just call it that and be done with it.
So the actual statement was, it was a legal strike. They paused the fight because they thought it was a knee to a grounded opponent. They went to the replay and confirmed that it was a legal strike. The fight was never officially stopped. Sarah Alpar was asked if she could continue and if she wanted to continue, and she said yes. Under Nevada State Athletic Commission rules, the bout can continue after replay since the fight was only temporarily paused and never officially stopped. I don't think is true at all.
That's some real equivocating right
so
there.
They just added another
the
part
fight was
to the rule.
Stopped.
Yeah.
It just wasn't stopped.
We didn't stop the fight. We just temporarily paused it.
It was paused. We paused the fight. We didn't stop it. We just paused it. Like, what the hell? What a nightmare.
Comically ridiculous.
I'm sitting there. I literally put on Twitter, I'm like, Chris Tyone's probably freaking out right now. He's probably like, you gotta be shitting me. Are we really doing this again? Like, he is mired in some sort of controversy every week. Either he let a fight go on too long, or he should have stopped one, and then like the reverse happened, and he stopped it too fast. And then he had like a great night. The Mallory Martin stoppage with the Hannah Cyphers, like, that was great. That was like one of the best refereeing of the entire year. And then it just, man, down the tubes.
You guys want to hear what is arguably one of my more controversial opinions?
I can't wait.
So I grew up, I played soccer growing up, and I also refereed soccer. And I had a very clear way to referee games. And it was this. I can't really tell the difference between what's like a foul and what's not unless it's super egregious. So I just didn't call them. Like, I just did not blow the whistle unless something was incredibly like, if you punched a dude in the face, I would blow the whistle. And I feel like all referees should just do that. Like, not going to stop it because a fighter says I was poked in the eye. Unless I see you go like Three Stooges, I'm just letting it run. I'm letting knees to the downed opponents run. Just let them have at it. Havoc reigns free, and we'll separate it out at the end. It'll all be fine. If Chris Tione had adopted this, no problems tonight. Would have been super simple and fine.
Remember the NBA in like the late 80s, early 90s?
Yeah. It was
like,
awesome.
It was the best. It was the best.
No blood, no foul. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like if you played against the Detroit Pistons and you tried to go in for, like, if Larry Bird tried to go in for a layup, he would get clotheslined by Bill Laimbeer. And the worst it would be is just like a personal foul. That's it.
Exactly.
And oftentimes they would just let it go.
And Larry Bird would say thank you.
You should
shot.
ref fights in the way that you self-referee pickup basketball games. And everybody hates the jackass at a pickup basketball game who's calling fouls and travels. Like, nobody likes you. You're going to be forced off the court in 20 minutes. As long as they don't bring a shank to the court, it's fine. And that's how fights should be reffed. Like, it is so clear to me, and I don't know why other referees don't do it. Like, what, are they going to be fired? Nobody gets fired for being bad at their jobs in the sport.
Steve Mazzagatti was running things for 10 years.
Yeah, like, it's fine. Like, just let them do whatever. You, as Chris Tione proved tonight, you referees have the ability to change the rules to be whatever you want them to be. There will be no repercussions, so just do it. Make the sport we all love, and everyone will laud you for it.
I did see a question about Colby Covington.
Ooh, that's a good question.
What was it? Or do you want to
the Colby at a new camp? Do we see any difference?
Oh, yeah.
Question.
I take that one away, but talk about the question. The question was new camp Colby. Was
not
there
particularly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Colby Incorporated.
A lot more kicks to the body. There were definitely a lot more kicks to the body tonight.
Yeah. Also, feels like we're not talking about this at all, but like, I know Tyron Woodley separated a rib or whatever, but Colby Covington had a dedicated body attack to that side of the body that separated the rib. Like, I'm not willing to say that he didn't have his rib totally screwed up because Colby Covington just pounded the crap out of it. Like, I think that's very possible. And I mean, yeah, in the end, it was probably kind of exacerbated or popped out. The final push or whatever happened from an action, Woodley was doing. But I think that's, not less of a weird stoppage and more that's the outcome when you let yourself get hit in the body 400 times because all you're doing in guard is holding on and praying. But that's just me.
Yeah.
How much of Woodley's decline do you think is just age? He's 38. He always seems to be a fast twitch muscle guy, and
I think all of it.
It's just.
I don't think it's the fast twitch muscles is the thing. Like, he's still a hyper athlete, but like, one of the hardest things you see when fighters start declining is like hesitancy and like an inability to pull the trigger, and that's just like hit Woodley super hard. And it's like, I mean, we're all old people on this thing, and you go out and try and do sports now, like, your brain just can't do it in the same way, like, even if your body physically can do it. And I think that's just like it. Like, you've saw it with other fighters, like Anderson Silva's had that a lot actually. In his decline, he's managed to stave it off, probably because he fights in a worse division, or at least smoke and mirrors some of it. But I think it's almost 100%. He's just old. Like, it just happens.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting because I think because back in the day I used to work for Strikeforce, so I knew Tyron way back. I saw Tyron at these challenger shows. And before Tyron Woodley was Tyron Woodley, the chosen one, he was just this dude that I always thought he's the best 7.5 minute fighter. He would dominate the first 1.5 rounds, and then he would always lose the last round. And eventually, his fights were boring and everything. But it wasn't until he got knocked out. He already had the belt, but then he got knocked out by Nate Marquardt. And then everything. But then you thought, okay, he's either going to be even more gun shy or he's going to just open up. And he wound up just being this monster, this violence machine after that fight. So I always thought, like, I just think him just...
To an extent.
Well,
I
when he
mean,
came to the UFC, I think it was not Jay Heron, but he knocked out a couple guys. I think Josh Koscheck. When he came into the UFC, I think it was off the Marquardt loss in Strikeforce, and he just was just the highlight reel that all those highlights we've seen of Tyron, but like he never got like I said, like he never. I still understand why he got gun shy so much, because it's not like he never got knocked out. No one ever hit him really hard in the chin. He was always afraid, if I get touched, I'm gonna get knocked out. Like he never really got hurt. It's still kind of a mystery to me.
So I don't think that it's gun shy, Casey, because like you're right. Like he has those kind of highlight reel wins that we've seen, but also in all of those fights, like they all kind of share the same thing. Like he structurally as a fighter has been really similar forever, where he will just let large portions of the fight slip away. And I think that largely was a response to him gassing out early in his career of, okay, I can't fight 7.5 minutes. I need to be built to fight 25s. So I need to pick my spots and explode. And it's that same kind of like dynamic offense that Brian Ortega or Yoel Romero, who they'll lose rounds to win fights. And so he was that way, but now we just aren't seeing any of that dynamic offense that wins fights. Like, I mean, shit, Wonder Boy almost got decapitated in their first fight and still eked out a draw because Woodley just gave up huge portions of that fight, doing nothing against an opponent he could have finished at will if he wanted to, it seemed like. So, I mean, that is why I always thought Covington was a really bad matchup for him, even back when Woodley was champion, just because he will give up so much opportunity to win the fight just by not doing anything. And now it just seems like he doesn't even have the ability to do stuff, which is how he wins fights. So it's just bad. It's just bad news bears, man.
He's basically the Rory McDonald fight, if you remember that fight.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Remember how horrible that fight was?
I wish I didn't remember that fight.
That's essentially. That's what I mean. I can't tell if it's. I guess I mean it's a combination. If it's in his head or is it physical? Because the Rory the Tyron we see now is that Tyron that fought Rory McDonald when Tyron was still in his prime. So craziness.
And the Till fight was like completely different. Yeah, totally different guy.
Remember he came out and like I think he gave like Till like a giant knee or something. Like he came out hard and like that just. Within like the first 10 seconds, like Till was just like shook. I remember.
That's the thing. For a very brief moment, when Woodley came out and took the center of the cage in this fight tonight, I was like, I'm gonna press the action on Colby Covington. I was like, oh wow, maybe Tyron's not like blowing smoke. Maybe he has found the fountain of youth, or he's motivated. He's going to the dark place. All those sound bites he popped off with. But then he swung a big right hand, got ducked under, and that was it. He never did that again. He just kept walking to the fence to lose. So I don't know, man. It's weird. I think Tyron Woodley is a really smart guy with a lot of great opportunities doing other stuff. Not rapping, don't do that. That's horrible. But, Titan Games is pretty cool. He's Straight Outta Compton was awesome. I know he had like 2 lines in it, but he can do a lot of other things, and he should go do a lot of other things because there's no need for him to just get beat up by people if he's not going to fight back.
He's a good analyst too.
Yeah, he is.
Get him on the broadcast. He could he could do color commentary on some of these cards too. I wouldn't mind seeing that.
He could do a ton of things. Like he's got a bright future outside of the cage, and he has a terrible future inside of it. So this should be simple math.
Agreed.
All right, what else we got? Mackenzie Dern versus Verna Jandiroba. It's a hell of a fight.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's tough to.
I personally think Verna is like the dark horse of the strawweight division. I honestly think that. Yeah. I don't know how good she is. I think she's an amazing fighter, and I just don't know how good she is. And I just threw this question up because, God, I want to see this fight.
Yeah, I think it's an awesome fight, man. Like I think Verna Jandiroba probably whoops her. But it's a good fight.
Yeah, I mean, meritocracy-wise, it's 15-14. So,
I mean, I think
they'll keep her away from Verna, though.
I guess the question is, are you really trying to functionally consider them 2 prospects? And there's a lot of the strawweight division that's long in the tooth. So, would it make more sense to just kind of build those up and have I don't know, Dern fight any other kind of middle ranked person who's there. I'm trying to think off the top of my head because I don't actually know who's fighting at this point. Like Tisha Torres.
Yeah, I mean, one of them should fight Tisha.
Yeah, this fight I kind of want to see, but I realize it doesn't really make sense.
Oh yeah, no, that's a fight we'll get in like 2 years when they're both near the top 5 of the division.
Yeah, I think one of them fights Tisha. The other one, maybe you do Angela Hill.
I mean, but Angela Hill's on like a 5-fight winning streak. That seems unfair. Angela Hill should be getting top 5 opponents.
Poor Angie.
or good judges.
Yeah.
Maybe we just have good judges.
Marina Rodriguez.
That's fine. Marina Rodriguez is an okay fight. I mean, yeah, I think Tisha Torres seems like a good one for one of them, and yeah, Angela Hill's a fine one. Angela Hill would be an interesting stylistic matchup, certainly for Mackenzie Dern. Because she's going to lose every minute she's on the feet and win every minute she's on the ground.
Lawler versus Woodley rematch.
They were talking about that not that
they booked it, didn't they? For that
they
Minnesota
booked
card?
it at the beginning of this year or something. That's right.
Or 2 years. I think it was last
maybe it was in
summer, maybe. It was that Minnesota card. And then I forget what became the new main event. But
yeah, I think you're right. I think it was maybe
who's more washed?
Tyron Woodley's more washed, but he could still maybe knock out Robbie Lawler if he throws one punch. I mean, that's fine. Really, Tyron Woodley needs to retire, and Robbie Lawler needs to fight Anderson Silva. This is very straightforward. I've been screaming this for over a year at this point. Robbie Lawler just fights Anderson Silva, and then he retires. Maybe you can do a Nick Diaz rematch. Fine. I'm not stoked on it, but fine. But that's what Robbie Lawler needs to do, and Tyron Woodley just needs to retire. That's pretty okay. Tyron Woodley's the at worst 3rd best welterweight of all time.
Yeah,
like that's a really good career.
Yeah.
That's probably the 2nd best division in the history of the sport, and he's the 3rd or maybe the 4th best welterweight of all time. And when the best is George St. Pierre, it's not even really like you're losing that battle. So, Tyron Woodley's a top 20 all-time fighter. Like, it's a great career.
Yeah,
he's a future Hall of Famer. Just walk away on it, man.
Although, yeah, if he sticks around, that's probably the best fight you can make.
I mean,
something like that.
Yeah, probably. I mean, you have to Legends Tour him at that point. But it's just, Tyron Woodley is very smart, and I think that he can recognize and comprehend when his time is done, and he has so many other opportunities that he, like Daniel Cormier, can walk away before it gets tragic. And it's just, man, you're tarnishing the legacy that matters a lot to him, because his legacy obviously does matter a ton to him. And if he sticks around and creates the longest losing streak in UFC history on a round by round basis, which he may already have at this point, frankly, like that's not a good look, man. Hang it up. You had a hell of a career. You're a Hall of Famer, absolutely, and you're going to be around the organization for the next 20 years, so it's fine.
What else we got?
Nothing too much, honestly.
Man, wow, we dodged all Michael Chandler questions.
Amazing.
I love that. I wrote 2,000 words on why Michael Chandler's not going to do well in the UFC. Go read them on MMAfighting.com, people.
Oh, okay.
It's roughly 2,000 words.
Yeah.
This is a hot tweets. It was just all hot tweets was this week was about Michael Chandler, and Michael Chandler's okay. He's not great.
Yeah, a lot of people that I've been getting Tony Ferguson should be pissed about this whole thing. Like, why wasn't Tony Ferguson the backup? Because Tony Ferguson's not going to be a backup. Like, you either give him the fight or you don't.
Yeah.
They probably offered it to him. He probably was like, no, I'm fighting Poirier or I'm fighting Khabib, like with a normal training camp. I'm not stepping in on a day's notice to fight Khabib. Not doing it.
If Ferguson just doesn't fight again, I think there's still like a 50-50 chance he's next in line for Khabib. like Khabib's going to run through Gaethje, and then he's not going to fight George St. Pierre, and he's not going to fight Conor, no matter how much Dana wants him to. So he's just going to be like, I want to fight Tony. I've been planning to fight Tony for 6 years. I'm just going to fight Tony. I don't care that he lost to Justin.
Yeah. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, so like, yeah, and no, to answer your question, Casey, no, I was never high. That's not true. There was a period in time where I thought Michael Chandler could have been arguably the best lightweight in the world, and it was that very narrow window when Anthony Pettis was champ, because I thought Pettis was really good, but I was also not all the way sold on his ability to handle a pressure fighter, which that ended up being pretty close to accurate. So I thought there was maybe a window where Michael Chandler was in the conversation, but that window was like 6 years ago. Michael Chandler's 34 years old in a division where people age like bread. So he's just not – he's not going to do that well.
I think he's not even top 15 anymore.
I think he's probably a top 15. He's a top 10 guy. Like, there are people he can beat in the top 10, and because it's lightweight, theoretically he could actually beat anybody on any given night. But, like, he's not, in my mind, he's not beating anyone in the top 5. Like, he's not beating Khabib. He's not beating he's certainly not beating Gaethje. He's not beating Dustin Poirier. Tony Ferguson, if Tony is starting to get washed, maybe that's interesting. But even then, I still think Tony is way more dynamic and just a much more dangerous opponent. And Dan Hooker's awesome, so he's not beating Dan Hooker. Like, oh, and Conor, I don't think he beats Conor. So, I mean, those 6, I think that those are all pretty easy losses for him. Then after that, Charles Oliveira, I still don't know how good Charles Oliveira is. He might be amazing. He might be on a good run. Like Paul Felder, I would still favor those guys over him, though I think that those are potentially winnable fights for him. So, I mean, look, the way I summed it up earlier today was I think Patricio Pitbull is a really good featherweight, probably a top 5 featherweight in the world, and he obliterated Michael Chandler in a minute. So I don't think Michael Chandler's going to fare well against the best fighters in the best division in the sport. Lightweight is the best division by far in MMA. It is unbelievable, which really makes what Khabib is and has done, and what Tony Ferguson did for so long. Like, honestly, one of the most incredible things that we've ever seen in this sport. And I think Michael Chandler is good. I don't think he's great. And so I think he's probably a top 10, top 15-ish guy. But if you want him to get an Eddie Alvarez type title run, you're going to either have to be really careful how you do it or just give it to him like they did Eddie, because Eddie probably lost 3 fights and got a title shot. So,
yeah, I mean, Chandler's definitely in the mix, no doubt about it. And just the way he finished Benson Henderson, like the way he did it, and like the storyline and how it was like built up, like it was perfect. Like everything just like came together perfectly for Michael Chandler. Like if he'd gone out there and won a decision like most people expected, we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now. He'd probably still be with Bellator, probably would have re-signed him, or he probably would have like stuck with them, and I don't think he'd be in the UFC at this point. So it all just kind of worked out.
Kind of still surprised he left. I think at the end it was pretty obvious that he was going to, but like, I don't know. I guess all of this just comes down to me being a Michael Chandler hater or whatever. Like, I don't think he's going to have a great UFC run. And so, in the end, instead of having like this bulletproof relationship with Bellator forever where he could do all these other things with that organization, that now feels like maybe that doesn't exist anymore for the game. That is a pretty bad odds for him to like make noise in the UFC lightweight. Am I wrong? Do you guys agree? Like, if either Khabib or Gaethje falls out, do you really think Chandler's doing anything against either of those men? Because I don't see it at all.
I think Chandler's
tough
actually style-wise. I think he loses to both, obviously, because I think they're the best of the best. But I think he has a better chance against Khabib. I think Gaethje.
Oh, yeah.
I think style-wise is better.
I think he has zero chance against Gaethje.
Gaethje just that's just
like I literally don't know how he could win that fight. Like I can visualize how he could beat Khabib, but I also don't think there's a person alive who beats Khabib in a fight. So that's just is what that is. Like again, not a knock on Chandler. Like Chandler has had a good career.
I don't think it's not because I was more asking like when people say, "Oh, Chandler sucks," it's like what does suck mean? Does it mean top 5, top 10? Wait, he can't even win a contender series fight. Like what does suck? So that's why I guess that scale I was talking about.
He'll have a better UFC run than Will Brooks did. but probably not as he will have a similar UFC run to Eddie Alvarez if you only look at wins and losses and not that Eddie snuck out a title shot, because Eddie's actual UFC run was pretty poor, but he happened to take a title, so that cures all ills. He'll have a very similar run to that. It won't be Will Brooks level bad, but he's not going to win the belt, so it's going to be lackluster.
Who's next for Johnny Walker?
Oh, that's a great question. Johnny, that fight was really fun.
Beautiful. It was beautiful. It's so MMA.
It was so MMA.
Oh, that was like heavyweight MMA, but light heavyweight.
Who is next for Johnny Walker?
Volkan?
I mean,
Uzdemir, maybe? Like, what do you do?
I don't
Not
know.
Prohashka, because I think Prohashka's earned.
I think he's farther up.
That's the thing is
He just lost. Like, he lost
look,
his last two fights
I know
until tonight.
I know that you don't want to do Prohashka because like that's not really fair to Jiri, but are we going to pretend like that's not just going to be incredibly fun? If you made that fight,
well,
it would just.
What about
Prohashka's like a win and a half away from fighting for the title right now.
Everyone at light heavyweight is right now. I'm 3 wins away from a light heavyweight title shot. Like, come on, ain't nobody like. They're just giving that belt away next weekend.
Prohashka should be fighting Alexander Rakic. That's the fight.
I was
that's
gonna say
fine.
that. I was gonna say Rakic.
Can we just do like a fatal 3-way between Rakic and Prohashka and Johnny Walker? Is that like a thing?
Who just lost their fight? Someone just got COVID. Either Santos or Glover.
Santos. Santos got COVID. Yeah, but Teixeira, Santos, aren't they gonna like try and rebook that for the 3rd time? Or do you think we're just moving away from that? I guess that'd be fine.
The battle for the best light heavyweight in the world, right, Jed?
Well, it was, but it keeps not happening. Yeah. So,
yeah.
Also, it's hard for me to keep track of all the things I say because, also, like, though I think that's probably true, I do remain convinced that Dominic Reyes, in fact, beat John Jones, and so he should be considered the true light heavyweight champion. But I just don't feel like Jan Blachowicz is deserving of a title shot, is I guess how we're getting down to it. But here we are, Polish power.
Anthony Smith versus Johnny Walker, which I gotta be honest. Looking at it,
that's a good one. Actually,
this is what I think will actually happen.
A lot of people are saying they want to see Anthony Smith, Johnny Walker.
I think that's actually right. Like that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Anthony Smith might be washed, and so Johnny Walker can punch him in the face, or get knocked out, but then land some elbows to the side of the head and get it. That's a good fight. That's crazy and ridiculous.
Yeah, that's probably the one. Or Volkan.
Ooh. Oh no. Why are we Rumble Johnson? Rumble's he's back in the USADA pool. Let's let Johnny take a breather and let's bring out Rumble.
Wow. Now that might be the pick.
I mean, that feels fun,
did
right?
Did Rumble say he's doing 205 or is it?
He's doing 205.
Yeah, he said he's coming back for 205.
All right, Rumble.
He's in the pool.
Johnny Walker.
So
I like it.
October, November, December. So by March, you could do that. You could still give Walker Anthony Smith and then Anthony Rumble Johnson.
Oh, back-to-back Anthonys? Can we double book him like Khamzat?
Yes.
Or is Johnny Walker not on the Khamzat hype train?
Johnny Walker, like a year and a half ago, would have definitely been on the Khamzat train.
Johnny Walker was so close to a title shot. Like,
Corey Anderson.
Close to a title shot.
Got him.
Corey Anderson.
That was less than a year ago. That's crazy.
MMA moves fast, y'all.
It does.
All right.
Let me ask you this. We're all hyped for UFC 253, okay?
Pretty pumped.
Izzy versus Paulo Costa is a great fight. Reyes versus Blachowicz is a title fight. It's a good fight. On paper, if we're looking at it from top to bottom, was tonight's card better? On paper?
No.
You think? Come on. I think tonight's was better from top to bottom.
No.
The title fights are great. It's great having title fights.
Yeah, those are really. I mean,
got Bravard.
Yeah, those
does it
have
weigh
a lot
that
of,
much?
They really do.
I mean, like, I'm glad Juan Espino is fighting next week. Like, we haven't seen him fight in forever.
Okay,
Yeah,
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying, Mike. All right, all right.
I get what you're saying, but I don't agree because I actually
You think it weighs the title fights outweigh
think
everything
it really
else?
does. Because honestly, that fight tonight, like I was struck really, really strongly, honestly, this whole fight week about how small Woodley Covington felt. Because that fight should have been enormous. Like it should have been a full media blitz on it. That should have had a title on the line. Like 2 years ago, that would have been one of the biggest fights the UFC could have put on, and it got virtually no media coverage because 253 has been the full blitz from everything for the last month. Colby Covington was oddly quiet for the last couple of months, and Tyron Woodley was not trying to do anything in this regard. So it struck me really hard watching this fight. Like, man, this fight was the fight itself was always going to be what it was going to be, but like the buildup really should have been something special, something we were excited and interested in, and it didn't feel like that. Like it felt like this is a really good fight, and we understand the storylines, but we're in a holding pattern. We're waiting to get to Israel Adesanya Paulo Costa. That's what this felt like, and I think if this was for a title, just that on its own merits would have made this feel like its own event. And so I really do feel like the double title fight is just weighs the other ones down. Like if you want to go prelim versus prelim, yeah, these prelims are better tonight than next week. But I think the top end makes or breaks it.
I
get what you're saying.
Yeah, I really think I agree with Jed. I think Woodley Covington. Actually, I think for a lot of fights, I'm like, it doesn't matter if a crowd's there or not. It doesn't matter if we have a big press conference. I think Woodley Covington. When was the original fight booked? 2 years ago, 3 years ago now?
They never booked.
Well, when was the original?
The original one was
when Covington beat RDA. Remember? So Covington got that was the interim, right?
That was 2018, I think. Yes, that was the interim.
And Woodley was the champ, right? That was when there was.
Yeah.
So,
Woodley was the champ. Darren Till was the Darren Till fight was supposed to be Woodley's, and that was 2/28, September of 2018. That was the first time Woodley got,
Darren Till is supposed to be Covington. Sorry.
That was exactly. That was the first time Covington talked himself out of a title fight.
Yeah.
And that fight would have been enormous.
Yeah, that fight. I felt like this fight needed that crowd, needed that kind of. I mean, if we're gonna do the whole, libs versus conservatives, angle and stuff, I think 2 years ago that worked. Now it just felt, especially with no crowd, it just felt too. I don't know.
And it felt a little empty just because of Woodley. Like,
yeah.
Remember earlier this year, like Usman Covington was like a big fight, and it felt like a big fight. Like that was a good fight, and that was built on a manufactured backstory about those two hating each other. And like, sure, maybe there's bad blood there, but that was really just co-opting the Covington-Woodley beef.
Yeah, bring that
because now Usman was the champion instead of Woodley. Like that, they just ported that over, and it felt bigger than tonight, almost by nature of just kind of what it was, and to some extent that Woodley has lost 10 straight rounds, which is not a good look for anybody. So I mean plus honestly, you could get rid of the rest of the fights on this card. Izzy Costa that's going to be banger, man. I haven't been excited about a fight like that in some time, so I'm really pumped about it.
This is the Khamzat Chimaev showcase night. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like, Colby versus you booked a press conference for Colby Covington versus Tyron Woodley, and then it became the Khamzat show. Like, and you gave Woodley by himself and then Covington by himself, and I honestly I kind of understand why they didn't put him in the same room. I get it. Like, I totally understand why.
What would have happened?
It would have been that. It would have been exactly what we heard individually, but together, and it would have been worse.
I don't know. Maybe Tyron would have thrown a real punch instead of not like he did all night tonight.
He threw one real punch and he got taken down.
So. He did. That was so. As soon as he tried offense, he got tackled to the floor.
And you could hear the disappointment in Dominic Cruz in the sense that he goes like, "Oh crap, we're gonna see this fight," and not
Felder too.
But I mean, you could tell they were deflated a little bit as far as like, we're not gonna see an exciting fight. We're gonna see we're gonna see what we saw.
Tough night for Felder, man. Like, he had to watch Meerschaert get knocked out in 17 seconds, then he had to watch Woodley get carved up like that all night. Like, tough to watch when you're broadcasting and watching your teammates fight.
Yeah, it's also, I maintain that it's still kind of insane that we allowed that to happen. Like, how does the UFC not just pull Paul Felder from the booth? They have a 3-man booth. Just be like, yeah, Paul, just go sit in the corner. Like, we don't want you talking during this, especially now when there aren't fans, and theoretically Paul Felder could be like saying stuff on the broadcast that influences or affects the fighter judges. Like, it's just insane to me that we still allow that. But yeah, I mean, it's fine. It wouldn't have affected anything at all tonight.
We also work in a sport where the promoters control the broadcast, so
True.
So
before we say goodbye, here's the main card next week. Sajara Eubanks is back already. She's gonna fight Caitlin Vieira. I honestly, this fight could steal the show. Kai Kara France versus Brandon Royval. That's gonna be a hell of a fight at 125. And then we got Hakeem Dawodu versus Zubaira Tugagov, and then the 2 title fights. It's a pretty damn good main card next week. It's worth your $65. No doubt about it. The main event is worth your $65. But everything else, and then Diego Sanchez is fighting for free on ESPN, and that's going to be all sorts of fun too. So should be good. William Knight makes his debut against Alexa Kamer, and then Juan Espino is back. I mean, just all the storylines, all the things we love, comeback stories, big time fights, bangers, everything you would want is right here for you.
And it's just Adesanya Costa. The rest of it doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't matter. Who do you guys think's winning that?
Oh man, that's so hard.
Yeah.
I'm going at it.
Adesanya.
I'm going. Yeah, I'm a to be the man, you got to beat the man kind of guy.
Man, I wish I was as optimistic as you.
It's a great fight. I have no idea, but if I'm gun to my head, guessing, taking a shot, I have to pick. I'm going Adesanya.
But you guys are just fundamentally forgetting that it's 2020 and we're not allowed to have nice things. And Adesanya is gonna just like pick him up, just fire off shots, and they're gonna bounce harmlessly off all across his head, and he's gonna rip a 5-punch combination to the body that folds Adesanya like a lawn chair. It's gonna be awful stuff. It's gonna be so disappointing.
I thought you were going in a completely different direction when you said this is 2020. I thought you were gonna say like. I'm not even gonna say it. I'm not even gonna put that out.
Don't put that out in the universe.
Not doing it. That's not. I thought you were about to put it out in the universe. But
they're on the plane. They're going. They're already in the bubble. It's there.
They're there. Yeah, they're already there.
They're in the bubble now. It's not like in Vegas. There's no bubble in Vegas. I saw when I was in Vegas for a fight. I saw the fighters half the fighters at Whole Foods. So we're good.
Well, I mean, it's cool because, as Donald Cerrone says, this whole coronavirus thing will be over come November.
Oh, yeah.
So it's fine. Don't worry about it. All that science stuff, that's trash.
Jeez. God. We're an hour and 20 minutes about talking about Donald Cerrone's.
I wanted to leave you on a happy note, Casey.
God.
All right, we have to say it. I mean, no better time to say goodbye than reliving that quote.
Hey,
that's it.
Dana White's been working out.
Oh yeah,
he's looking swole. I'm gonna ask him next time I see him.
In case you missed it, Dana White reveals why he's so vascular these days. So go check out the scrum on our page. He's jacked. Apparently, he had shoulder surgery, and he's got a trainer for the first time in his life over the last year. So that's why he's so ripped, and big, jacked, and vascular.
Muscle and Fitness magazine. Here he comes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you know what's coming. And this is coming from Dana White's little brother or son, as you guys like to say so eloquently on the comment section. So, I mean, come on. I'd take his bank account, that's for sure. But that's it. We're going to bed. 1:40 next week. This is gonna be a lot later, folks. So get ready. Don't you holy shush. You wait till next week. It's gonna be like 4:40. We're still gonna be rolling next week.
I'm here next week.
Well, you won't be here.
Yeah. Oh wow, I'm already kicked off.
No,
Okay.
I hope you come.
Well, you won't be here. All right, I see how it is, Mike.
I'm sure they'll throw AK and his difficulty scales back in here, so we can try to mimic those, the 9.5s and such. Hey, but listen, you come back on anytime. This is an open forum. You want to come in and talk with AK about fights? You jump on in here.
It depends how jacked I am after Izzy Costa. We'll see.
No between the links for you this week, right? You can't make it this one?
I'm flying out to LA on Monday, so.
All right. Well, if Phoenix wins, the rematch has to happen the following week. So
I agree. I mean,
right.
People's Champ, as we know, there are a number of those in MMA. Me and Colby Covington, we don't share much in common, but the People's Champion title, we certainly do.
I would have to agree with that. People thought you got robbed. People want the rematch. Jed deserves a rematch. It's amazing what you can do in a few weeks, because most of the times Jose got robbed, AK got robbed, and now it's Jed got robbed. They want to see you back, so we'll try to make that happen in a couple weeks. But with that being said, we are done. We are out of here. For Casey Leiden, Jed Meshew, I am Mike Heck. Good night, everybody.
Love you guys.